I had a platonic marriage with my friend's sister so someone could look after my kids, but now I feel as if I'm falling for her hard. What should I do? About 4 years ago, my wife and partner of 8 years passed away due to complications after the birth of our second son. I was deployed at the time and completely devastated. After flying home, I felt that nothing would make me happy again. My sons are great, 6 and 4, but overwhelming, so I asked a sister of one of my Marine buddies, Cass, to help out. She had been friends with my wife but not great friends, and she agreed in exchange for a place to stay. At the time, Cass was only 20 years old and in quite a bit of debt at fault of her extremely abusive ex-boyfriend, who she had finally left about 3 months earlier. During the first few weeks of helping out with the boys, she asked to borrow money to see a doctor due to shaking hands. I happily obliged. She was an angel, cooking, cleaning, and keeping my young family together. It turned out that she had developed some sort of neurological disorder, probably brought on by repeated abuse. At the time, it seemed simple. I had good insurance, she needed healthcare, I never thought I'd be able to move on from my wife, and she was afraid of intimacy. I agreed that I would marry her but keep our platonic relationship. She promised not to burden me with her debt, and we had a prenuptial agreement. I know this is a fraud of the government, hence the throwaway, but we were both so damaged and needed somebody, if not intimately. The past 3 years have been about as good as expected, if not better. Cass is great, better than great. She keeps the house spotless, has food ready every night when I get home, and has been working overnight as a baker, almost paying off her debt. Her condition has improved greatly, as well as due to the great medical care she was able to receive. With the boys, she is a saint. She tells them about their mother, shows them pictures, takes them places for fun, and even teaches them how to read. Sometimes, the 4-year-old calls her mommy, but she has him and reminds him that his name is Cass and that mommy is the angel whose picture is above the fireplace. Once her debt is fully paid off, the kids are in school, and she saves up some money, she will go into a nursing program. Our relationship is still platonic but very caring. I've cried on her shoulders more than I can count, and she's done the same. She seems to understand me whenever I'm hurt, upset, or angry and is calming in a way I can't explain. The problem is that I might fall for her. I've been noticing little things, her scent, her smile, her laugh, the way she smiles with her eyes when she sees me, how much my boys love her. Not to mention that she's gorgeous, hardworking, and one of the strongest people I've ever encountered. A few nights ago, I almost kissed her after we had put the boys to bed, and her goodbye hug started lasting a little bit longer. The other day, she was napping in my bed, and I wanted to join her. Do not have intimacy with her, just lay with her and hold and kiss her. I don't know what to do or how to bring this up. It's been 4 years since my wife died. I can only think of a quote from A Song of Fire and Ice book, in which a character says, "When the sun has set, no candle can replace it." Meaning that since his true love has died, nobody could replace him. That's how I used to feel, but there have been days where my thoughts have been occupied with Cass, and I haven't even thought about my wife. I feel bad about it and still miss her, but I never thought I'd be able to move on. I feel guilty and disloyal. At the same time, I want her. Not just intimately or physically, I want to be romantically intimate with her, not just as friends. I don't know how to bring it up. I don't want to scare her or make her uncomfortable. But this is becoming more difficult than I could have ever imagined. I thought about asking her to get dinner, just the two of us, and bringing it up. But what if she refuses? How can I gauge her interest? If it means anything, the other day she was having a hard time with the boys, so I brought her home some of her favorite flowers. She was extremely giddy and gave me another lasting hug and a quick kiss on the lips. I was taken aback, but she pranced around, finishing dinner and putting the flowers in a vase. What does this mean? Update, fug it. I've called her favorite fancy restaurant and made a reservation. Her brother agreed to babysit and let her/me stay at his place tonight if she isn't into it/feels uncomfortable. She paid off her debt this morning, and next week is our 3rd anniversary, so that is the prelude. I'm going to tell her about dessert. I'm nervous as poop. Update 2, last night was hectic as poop at first. Our younger son had eaten what he calls a giant fuzzy spider, and Cass wanted to take him to the hospital even though he was fine. Her brother Joe told her he'd take care of it and forced her out of the house to celebrate getting out of debt. She didn't seem like she wanted to go. At all. I became fucking nervous. We got to the restaurant pretty early, but luckily, they had a table. She ordered wine, which was odd because she hadn't drunk much since she broke up with her ex, but I figured it was a time to celebrate. We made small talk for a while, but it seemed forced, and I knew I had to tell her soon. So, before the entrees even came, I said I had something to talk to her about. She didn't smile and told me that she knew. Joe told her. My heart almost stopped. That fuga. I hurriedly told her that I was so sorry. I didn't want her to find out that way. I wanted to tell her myself. She shook her head, frowned, and said that it was okay. She just wanted me to be happy and that I deserved it. I told her that I didn't want to stress her out or make her uncomfortable, but I just needed to tell her and see how she felt and that it was completely up to her. She gave me a look and said it was up to me and just to do what made me happy. She said she would probably move out after her program ended and promised to stay out of the way until then. Then, I realized something was a bit off and asked what Joe had told her. She said that he told her I wanted to take her out to dinner to tell her that I had started developing feelings for a girl and wanted to ask Cass if it would be okay if I asked this girl out. Then I realized that Joe had set me up for the most climactic pickup line ever. Our entrees came, and I explained that I had started developing feelings for a girl. I just didn't want it to mess up what we had. She said it wouldn't mess anything up. She still loved the boys and would care for them in the house. I continued to explain then that I wasn't going to ask the girl on a date, though, and she asked, incredulously, why not? Then I dropped the smoothest line I've ever dropped. Because I'm already on a date with her, right? Thanks, Joe, because he must know about your planned movie and wanted that line. She gave me the look she gives my sons when they tell her things like, I'm going to the mall by myself or I have a girlfriend named Tammy. Then she looked away, smiled, shook her head, and asked, really? I nodded and told her that I cared about her more than anybody else alive, that I loved our family, and that I had fallen in love with her. She then took a drink of wine, rolled her eyes, and said, "About fucking time, Alex." And I'll never forget what happened next. Maybe it was a faux pas, but I leaned across the table and kissed her, spilling her wine. But neither of us cared, and we kissed for about a minute before she told me to get off her before her crab legs got cold. After leaving the restaurant, we got ice cream, sat around, and kissed some more before heading home. Joe was sitting on our couch watching one of those VH1 dating shows with a poop-eating grin on his face, and Cass ran in, screaming at him that he ruined everything and that she was going to have to move in with mom now. We let him believe it for about 5 seconds before bursting into laughter. He shook my hand, told me the boys were sleeping, and left. I picked Cass up, kissed her, and carried her to my room, where we, well, made out for like 2 hours and snuggled the poop out of each other. She isn't ready for anything else but emphasized yet. I'll give her all the time in the world. At one point, the youngest son came in because of a nightmare and brought his dog and claimed that the doggy was scared, so we let him in. I woke up early to make everyone breakfast, and am about to go and kiss my wife goodbye and ask my boss for the second part of the day off so that I can spend more time with her while the boys are at school. Update 3, it was initially somewhat strange explaining it to our friends and family, but most of them had already caught on. Including my sons, who act as if nothing has changed. I'm pretty sure the little fuggers knew the entire time. Anyway, I came home last night, and Cass was out of it. Dinner was burnt. I asked her what was wrong. I was concerned, and she told me that her ex-boyfriend got parole last week. I was flabbergasted since she should have been able to testify at his parole hearing, I believe. The crime that he was incarcerated for was unrelated to the abuse, but Cass had been, 1, assured it would put him away for a decade at least and, 2, had been far too afraid to testify against him or press charges. Apparently, he'd been arrested for this felony, and when he was being held, he asked her to post bail, but instead, she asked my first wife for help moving out and moving on. I don't know what to do. I don't think that we have any legal ways to put him back into prison. She knows that she should have gone to the police and is guilt-ridden and upset about it now. I know that she's going to be safe because if he tries to even contact her, I'll take legal recourse to make sure that he doesn't so much as touch her. I've taken off work today but promise that even when I return, I'll have my buddies stopping by throughout the day. But I don't know how to make her feel safe. I've contacted my lawyer about filing a restraining order, and he said it shouldn't be too hard, but she's a mess. I just don't know how to make her believe that I doubt this piece of poop will come around, but I know what I'm going to do if he tries. Update 4, things got tough for a while when her ex was released from prison last year, though. She was so afraid that he'd contact her, until he did. I remember that night like it was 5 minutes ago. Somebody rang our doorbell, and the oldest son answered. He asked for Cass. She told the boys to go upstairs and gave me a look, and I knew. But she didn't look scared. The bastard apologized, begged for forgiveness, and asked for a second chance. She was so brave. I wanted to unalive him, but she told him no and asked him to leave. He did, and he tried to contact her a few more times before we got an order of protection against him. Last I heard, he moved upstate to live with his dad or something. Around this time, her brother Joe also got into a really bad car accident and ended up having to move in with us for a while. He's a great guy and one of my best friends, so we didn't mind, but it was a stressful time. About 7 months ago, we finally, consumed our marriage, I guess you can say. The boys are doing great and are happy. Cass got a pretty good job and loves it. We're expecting our first child in February and couldn't be more excited. You could say that life is pretty good. Update 5, 2 years later, it's a girl. Technically, she was born in early March, but I didn't want to make the title it was a girl. Sorry for not updating. It was a pretty rough pregnancy, but everything turned out great. Little Therese was 21 inches and 9 pounds at birth and as bald as I am. She's way easier than the boys were. She hardly ever cries and is the most photogenic baby ever. Our youngest son is completely smitten and always tries to help. It's less cute than you think. Other than new fatherhood, not much to update. I'm home watching the baby today while Cass is out, so I should be around for a while.